think about the edge as being a communication block. So let's say I'm really afraid of like confrontation, so I tend to like be very indirect and passive in my relationships and communication with people. But something is coming through me, starting to come through me, a secondary process where occasionally I'm very direct, and then I'm just horrified about what I've just done or said. Yeah, but we start to see that there's this directness thing coming, right? But the person, because they're so afraid of being, for example, rejected, they're so afraid of hurting someone, etc., that they have a real edge to this direct process, direct communicating, etc. Yeah, and so working at the edge, negotiating the edge with people so they can start to learn and explore what's over here is a huge thing. Because sometimes people's edges and groups' edges to things, sometimes they're fairly minor. We can get through it really, sometimes with just a little bit of encouragement, for example, people will go over their edges and explore something. But sometimes people have huge edges. Sometimes groups have huge edges to explore even things that are naturally starting to arise. Yeah. So edge work, often at the edge, generally speaking, people in groups will get uncertain, nervous, self-doubtful, confused, they'll space out, these kinds of things.
What does shame, shame, like it could be an edge figure?
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, thank you for also naming the figures there, because also at the edge, we often find these kind of psychological figures, edge figures, that somehow suggest, don't go over here. It's a bad idea, you're going to get hurt, people aren't going to like you, etc., etc., etc. Yeah? So working, negotiating, talking, having dialogue with those edge figures can also be really, really helpful. Okay, now I think that might be it. Let's see, talked about feedback, figures. Okay, so again, it's not always easy to know what's primary and secondary, but even without a lot of clarity, one simple practice that I use that it can be really helpful is I have a notebook and I draw a line down the middle of a notebook page, piece of paper, and let's say I'm listening to a client. They're talking about their life, they're talking about what's going on, etc. And I'll write down things that are more primary. Oh yeah, that's, they're saying, yeah, I'm going to school these days, and I'm trying to work out, and I'm trying to eat better, primary things. And then I'm listening to also what's more secondary. And I had a terrible fight with my neighbor yesterday. It just came out of the blue, I don't know what happened. Oh, interesting, fight, conflict, yeah? Or, yeah, I'm trying to get better, and then there's a part over here that says, but I find like I just don't want to work out. That starts to sound a little bit further away from their intent. Or, I was trying to work out, but I'm starting to have knee pain. So I would write down knee pain as being something more, they weren't intending to have a knee pain, but there it is. So I'd write down knee pain over here. Yeah? Does that make some sense?
No, any of those things you could switch over.
What do you mean?
Meaning that the person could be more identified with knee pain. That that's part of they have a permanent thing going on with their knee. That's part of their identity, and they're saying,
to some degree, yeah. I noticed I have this. It's kind of a, to me, a kind of a complex question you're asking, because generally in my thinking, most all symptoms are secondary. Because it's a very rare person who will say, for example, now I'm going to have a stomach ache. Now I'm going to hurt my knee. But that said, the part where I feel like you're right is, it's interesting, because I think you're right, so we could start to have an identity. Yes, I am a person who has bad knees. But that's where the thing is, where primary isn't always fully in awareness, because I say I'm a person with really bad knees, but have I really explored what's in my bad knees? I doubt it.
So that okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But it's an interesting thing, because
Mhm.
like let's say the symptom has gone on for a while, and at first, let's say when I first started having the knee problem, like I'm a person who likes to be active. This thing is like, it's so disturbing to me. That's clearly a secondary symptom, right? But let's say it's been going on now for years. I'm just a person who has limitations and my knees hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's less secondary, it's become a little bit more primary.
Mhm.
Sure, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also interesting how people have chronic things that they haven't ever really explored.
Sure.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
There was a different quality in the way that you were expressing yourself, primary and secondary.
Yeah.
In the secondary, you were more like showing stress, or
Yeah.
showing or
Right.
something more
Yeah.
to that. Now it could be somebody that always gets angry, like
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
gets angry. Like
Yeah.
that's the way that they
That's
deal
just the
with,
way I am.
And so then you would consider that
Maybe that's more
a
primary. Sure.
or
Yeah.
always anxious.
Right.
Or it's part of
Right.
their. So I guess if it's more of a personality thing.
Well, let me take that part away. I think that what might be helpful is this. Secondary processes, usually people feel like the thing is happening to them.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? We often feel in a sense like add effect of the secondary process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's often like a dividing line, because we're not intending it. It's like, oh my God, yeah.
I feel like body symptoms can be edge figures too. Like they can keep you from exploring.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
something else.
yeah. And that's why they're also really good to unpack.
Well, as well, like what you just said about the being more. I don't know. I'm using the word victim, like something where something's happening to me.
Mhm.
Yeah, that can also be a primary process. Yes.
Which part? The victim
The awareness, or they're talking about how life always just happens to them. That's part of
Well,
their,
if I'm understanding what you're saying, it's like that the victim experience becomes an identity.
Yeah.
But this thing that happens to them is still, in my mind, secondary.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I think this will help.
I
Let's do this.
think I got that.
In a minute, pair up maybe one group of 3, one group of 2, and talk about your life. What's going on lately? And the people that are sitting with you, have a notebook. Do y'all have a notebook? I can get you paper and pencil. And you draw the line down the middle. And you don't have to know exactly. Like sometimes it's hard to know, but just get a sense. Like what? Yeah, this seems like that seems like this person. That's more primary. Seems like it might be more secondary. I don't know. Someone else's behavior, something that's symptomatic, something that's kind of troubling, et cetera, et cetera. Let's try it. I think that it'll be a good exploration. And then once you've done it for 10 minutes, then you'll discuss with your partner, and you'll compare notes. Yeah, well, I think that was primary. What do you think? Yeah, I think that was primary. No, I think that actually this was secondary, more secondary. Yeah, want to try it?